Hey everybody, today is November 26th, so we'll be looking at MTG stocks November 25th. And if we can look here today, we got not a lot. So we're actually going to look at just a couple of spikes here, and then we're going to look at some falls. So we're going to go ahead and start off with our biggest spike, which is only 20% increase, which is up very much, which is Krenko Mob Boss. He is a pretty cool commander. Um, he cost 2 colorless and then 2 red. He's a legendary creature, Goblin Warrior, so keep in mind that Goblin there. And he's a 3/3. So the main thing about him is his ability, which is you tap him, put X 1/1 red Goblin creature tokens onto the battlefield, where X is the number of goblins you control. So basically, even if you have no goblins, as long as you can tap him, he'll make at least one goblin because he's a goblin himself. Then next turn, since you have a goblin token in him, you tap him, you make 4, 8, 16, etc. He's very good. You can use this, and there's the fire god like Phosphoros, I believe. When a creature comes into play, you deal 2 damage to each opponent. So with Krenko and him, it's pretty crazy synergy. I mean, for any kind of goblin deck, you probably want to put Krenko in there, even if he's not your commander. EDH wise, I'm talking about EDH. I don't know so much about like modern or anything like that. But fun card, and you probably can get targeted pretty easily. Or if someone board wipes you, you'll be sad, but still a pretty nice card. So you go into our quote second spike. This is Spawn of Mayhem. This is not spike. I should say price increase. Price increase. Spawn of Mayhem. 2 colorless, 2 black. He is a demon, a 4/4. I really like this guy, and when he first came out, he was worth quite a bit, but we'll kind of get into that after we read this. He has a spectacle cost of 1 and 2 black, and spectacle, what that does is you can cast a spell for its spectacle costs rather than its mana cost if an opponent lost life this turn. So as long as you deal 1 damage, Spawn of Mayhem is now a 3 mana creature that has flying and trample as well. So 3 mana 4/4 flying trample is pretty spooky. And then also at the beginning of your upkeep, he does 1 damage to each player. Then if you have 10 or less life, put a +1/+1 counter on Spawn of Mayhem. So this card is pretty cool because first off, having a 3 mana, potential 3 mana 4/4 flying trample is pretty nice. Worst case, it's a 4 mana 4/4 flying trample, which is still pretty okay. But the really cool thing about him, at least for the spectacle costs or the spectacle ideas and stuff that came in Ravnica, the newest Ravnica, is that he does 1 damage to each player at the beginning of your upkeep. So if you have him out, you basically can always have your spectacle costs going off. And that's really nice if you are doing the like a spectacle cost deck or something of that nature. We'll see a commander a little bit later that could probably play off of this pretty well and could be pretty fun. The next 2 cards are ones that have decreased. The one you'll see here is probably pretty well known by now, but Wrenn 6, he is a red-green legendary planeswalker, and he starts with 3 loyalty. So his +1 ability is return up to 1 target land card from your graveyard to your hand. His -1 ability is 1 damage to any target, and its -7 ability is you get an emblem with instant and sorcery cards in your graveyard have retrace. Retrace, I believe, is you can cast this card from your graveyard if you discard a land. Pretty sure that's what retrace is. But cast this card from your graveyard as long as you discard a land in addition to its other costs. There we go. But so when I first saw this card, I was like, oh, this will be cool to put in my Windgrace deck. I was like, this probably won't be too expensive, but I was dumb because it's only a 2 mana planeswalker. The other thing about this card, if you are not familiar with modern format or understand why this card is so good, at least from what I've understood so far, is its +1 ability is return up to 1 target land from your graveyard to your hand. The reason why this is so good is because in modern, you have fetch lands, and so you sacrifice off that land, you bring a land from your library into play untapped. So with Wrenn 6, use +1 ability, you take that fetch land that you just used from your graveyard and put it back in your hand, and now instead of just cutting your deck out by 2 cards, basically. Well, you could call it 1 or 2 depending on how you see fetch lands. You've done it again, and now you're cutting out more cards. So that's really good. The second part is that his -1 ability, dealing 1 damage to any target, that might seem like a big deal, but in Modern and Legacy, potentially, wait, no, I think actually Wrenn 6 was just banned in Legacy. So the 1 damage to any target in Modern is actually really good too, because a lot of the creatures in Modern only have 1 health. So this guy is extremely good and extremely powerful, and that's why was worth like 80, 90 something dollars. But I'm gonna go back over here real quick. I'll scroll down into this. As we can see, Wrenn 6 has now gone down to $60, which is still way more expensive than I would ever pay, but that is probably mostly due to it being banned in Legacy, so it's not as good. The reason it was banned in Legacy and not Modern, which is a really weird thing, but the reason why is because I believe it's called Strip Mine, and Strip Mine is you sacrifice it and you destroy an opponent's land. So if you get Wrenn 6 out on turn, probably 1 or 2 in Legacy, maybe turn 0 even, who knows, but not really turn 0, but get it out and then get Strip Mine, then you literally just strip mine your opponent's land drop, bring it back with Wrenn 6's +1, and just keep strip mining everything. So that's why they got rid of it, as far as I know. I'm also going to kind of point this out before we go to our last kind of price cards that we like to look at is, so we had Wrenn 6, but we looked at Rook Egg earlier, and that one has gone down. Mishra's Factory has gone down. And I believe that one is actually the one we're going to look at, which is Veil of Summer. So this is a green instant. Draw a card if an opponent has cast a blue or black spell this turn. Spells you control can't be countered this turn. You and permanents you control gain hexproof from blue and black until the end of this turn. This is basically a 1-mana counter draw a card. More or less. Not quite, but it's very powerful. And this was banned in Standard recently, and this is why the card has gone down. And this was like an $8 or something uncommon, which is crazy for a Standard card, especially. A card that was just printed recently, I should say. But this is a nice green card to have. Like in Commander, this card's a little bit more fair just because it's 1 in 100, and you can't really sideboard, so it's kind of nice to have. But it's nice to have to have that draw card for 1, and also having the hexproof and counter pretty much, or anti-counter, yeah. But that is why it dropped down, because of the ban. Still pretty useful, I think, in Modern, but I guess time will tell. It'll stay at its $4 price, which is still pretty crazy for an uncommon. I think it probably will not, by the way, because usually when these cards do that kind of stuff, they will keep going down. But one card that kind of surprised me was Field of the Dead, which we looked at that a little bit earlier, and it kept going up instead of going down, even though it was banned in Standard. But we'll see. Then we're going to go to our commander for tonight, which is Yorvo, Lord of Garenbrig. This was a card that I played against tonight, and it's just a pretty cool mono card. I like to see some decent mono commanders, I should say. So he costs 3 green. He's a legendary creature, Giant Noble. When he enters the battlefield with 4+1/+1 counters. And whenever another green creature enters the battlefield under your control, you put a +1/+1 counter on him. If its creature's power is greater than Yorvo's, put another +1/+1 counter on Yorvo. So basically what you want to do is have really big guys that come out and give him more +1/+1 counters. How the guy played it tonight was pretty nice. He basically tried to get a bunch of mana ramp. He tried to use Vivian Arcbow and stuff like that to bring out other big creatures and etc. He got pretty spooky pretty quick. He got targeted a little bit, so you have to be a little bit careful if you go this route. But neat card. I mean, of course, if you had card draw advantage, that'd be nice, but not every commander will have that. But it's a neat card that can go off pretty quick, I would say. We're gonna go to our next card, which I believe, this is Pestilence. So Pestilence is 2 colorless, 2 black, enchantment. Pay 1 swamp, or pay black. Do 1 damage to each creature and to both players. Note that it says both players. That is supposed to be each player now with the errata. And then if there are no creatures in play at the end of any turn, Pestilence must be discarded. So this is, I played this tonight, and this kind of like shut down a lot of stuff a little bit more than I wanted to, but I got out early and people are playing Kalias. So when you pay 2 black, you kill a Kalia off, which is basically a 2/2 flyer. But it did really well to shut some people down, and it did quite a bit of damage to everybody, and it was a huge threat. It was the one thing that got rid of pretty quickly. Like, in addition to it being just a decent card, it's not expensive really. I think it's like 30 cents. The artwork on it is pretty interesting. It's kind of like a zombie, and I guess he has some sort of disease here, and then he's kind of drilling out the mouth. I don't know if it's supposed to actually be a person or a zombie, but I assume a person of some sort. But I love these old cards. I also made a mistake. I realized that. So on the Spawn of Mayhem, I said I was going to show a commander later, but I did not. The card I was talking about was Lord Rakdos, Lord of Riots, I believe, and maybe I'll do that Thursday. We look at that for our commander that day. Anyways, we're gonna end off tonight as usual with some random cards. Let's go ahead and do random card numero uno. Dun-dun-dun. Akron, sure. Akron Horse. 4 colorless mana to cast. Artifact creature horse, 0/4. Defender. When this enters the battlefield, an opponent gains control of it. So this is Trojan Horse, basically. At the beginning of your upkeep, each opponent creates a 1/1 white soldier creature token. So this is kind of fun. This can you basically give it to the person that is the biggest threat. So that way they do have a 0/4 defender, but then everybody's making 1/1 creature tokens at the beginning of their upkeep, and this could be. I think this is actually pretty decent for decks that may be like, I think there's like a fungus commander, like when a creature dies, you get like a +1/+1 counter on them. So this would be really good. And since it says white, it's not actually specific to just white decks unless it had like a mana symbol white. So you can actually put this in any deck since it is an artifact. So yeah, I think like any kind of token generation decks that play off well, but I think it'd be really good for decks that when any creature dies, I guess like Blood Artist or something, whenever something like that happens, I think this would be really good for that. So it's kind of a neat card. You'd have to have a specific kind of token deck for that though. Let's see here. Then we're going to go to our random card number 2. Oh boy, Giant Growth. Very vanilla, but why not? Giant Growth is a 1 green instant. Target creature gets +3/+3 until end of turn. This has been around for a long time. Pretty long time. Let's go ahead and see. There's 44 cards where the name is exactly Giant Growth. So you've got special versions, we got old versions. This is the one I'm kind of used to seeing. This one is put in like, I guess, in core sets. Gosh, I've seen a lot of these. There's just a ton of Giant Growths. I'm actually surprisingly not too familiar with this mouse one here. I think I'm more familiar with this one. So this must have been, I guess, more revised, which I wasn't too familiar with. But yeah, I'm more familiar with, I guess, instead this mouse instead of this mouse. But anyways, this is I guess, I don't know if it's a staple. It's not as good as like Lightning Bolt or something, but for a green deck, it is. If you're a mono green player, you've been around for a while, you've probably seen this one. Yeah, I hope you all enjoyed tonight, and I will see you next time. Have a good one.